contracting. We are ready to coach. So what do you do? Let's say even at the workplace, even on a one-to-one coaching, that needs to be done. Then please mute. So these are some of the things that we really need to be aware of when we are contracting. What does it mean to contract? You are aware of the principles. You are a certified coach. Why are we contracting with individuals? What is the importance of contracting in coaching? So because you can come to a coach and say, well, I charge 10,000 shillings per hour or 500 shillings per hour, but these are the terms and conditions that we need to adhere to. The coachee understands and say, this, I am happy to go to a coach. I understand that the coach will not give me the solutions, and the coach will be able to help me and unlock my potential. So we come and contract. Even when you use external coaches to come and work with you at your place of work, you will need to contract. What are we contracting about? It will be a tripartite agreement between the coachee, the coach, and the organization. So you contract, and there's an agreement that you put pen to paper. So contracting in coaching is extremely important. At the workplace coaching, we don't have that. It's not formalized, but we are saying that it will be formalized in a way that there would be targets. There's that psychological contracting. We have a job description. We have an employment contract. We understand the strategy of the organization. We understand the culture. So there are documents that can show that we have contracted, and this is what we expected to do. So the purpose, let's just go through very quickly, might come to the exam again. Anything that I am teaching today, that we are discussing today, is part of what some of the questions that ideally would be covered, because we are covering the whole syllabus. The purpose of contracting in coaching serves the purpose below. Ensure productive outcomes. You can hold people accountable to what we are going to do and the outcomes of what is supposed to, the outcomes that are supposed to come out of it. Clarifying roles, identification of the roles of the key stakeholder. If it's the company, they expected maybe to pay the contractor, the coach. If it is the coach, they're supposed to be qualified. If it's the coachee, they have a goal that they would like to explore and discuss, and there's terms and conditions of this engagement. Like there will be a venue, there will be times that we are going to coach, how many sessions we are going to have. Prevention of any misunderstanding, establishing of the coaching goals, agreeing on the purposes and objectives. We have a goal. Then what are the objectives that we are going to be discussing so as to meet this goal? Defining the timelines, defining the scope of the coaching contract, scheduling and structuring the coaching sessions, defining guidelines on interpersonal behaviors between the coach and the client, e.g., honesty, openness, real-time confidentiality, very important. Defining milestones and measures of success, because we can't just be nodding and saying, hey, we are getting there. How are you getting there? What have you done for me to see that there are milestones? Because even if an organization is paying for it, then it also means that we are expected to go back and show the measures of success. Either you're achieving that, you are a better employee now, you are more engaged, and you are able to take decisions on your own and sustain them while at it. Confidentiality agreements, defining guidelines for the use of personal and coaching information, as well as guidelines to the communication and distribution of that information. So it's important for us to be able to adhere to that and to check, because often of the times is when people are curious by nature, very curious by nature. And what happens is that when you really come and talk to them, is that the company that has sponsored the coachee wants to find from the coach the details being discussed, word for word, and then you tell them, no, that's not how coaching works, and only give you the highlights of, are we achieving our goals? Are they appearing for coaching? Are they adhering to the guidelines? Are there measures of success of what is supposed to come out of this? Is it being reflected back at the workplace? If we are doing that, we are within that. But not what is happening. Can you imagine if a coachee comes and says, my boss does this and this and this, and it's really what is slowing me down. I have a very poor working relationship with them. We are trying to address that as coaching. I will not go and say, you know what they say this and this and that. You have to package it within defining the milestones and measures of success. All those other ones are stories within what has come to the attention of the coach. And what is the coach's responsibility? The coach's responsibility is to ask powerful questions for them to know how they are going to help their coachee achieve the goal, despite the hard circumstances and very challenging circumstances that the coach finds themselves in. So very important. Confidentiality in coaching is part of the coaching process, and it just goes on to say that one of the key elements for contracting in coaching is dealing with the issues with confidentiality. People like information that they are not entitled to. When one considers confidentiality as something shared in confidence, the critical of it to trust and rapport building becomes obvious. We trust each other. If that confidence is not managed effectively, the impact of future trust and rapport will be devastating, needless to say. It is essential that contracting sets out expectations of confidentiality. This should be agreed with by all parties involved in the coaching relationship, the organization and the coachee or the mentee, whatever. Avoid using legalese, use clear, simple language to check that everyone understands and agrees with the content. It should also be borne in mind that the content will need to be adapted to make bespoke for each coaching engagement. Coaching is a very bespoke process, almost very intimate, very ideal, very enjoyable, very coveted, and make it as that so that we are able to achieve our objectives. Confidentiality in coaching, question can come, what are some of the things that you must adhere to confidentiality? A coach may need to listen to personal problems or private information that must be kept confidential, unless, of course, it involves criminal activities or activity, it is harmful to the team or to the organization, affects the safety and the welfare of people. When the question will, when can a coach break confidentiality? Suicide intentions, thoughts, threatened or attempt. If there is evidence of a serious self-harm, including drug and alcohol abuse, there is evidence of serious mental illness, because it will need a different intervention now. The coach has convincing evidence that the client is colluding in conduct which is dishonest, unlawful, unprofessional, or discriminatory. They can break the confidentiality clause to be able to help the coachee, to be able to help the situation, to be able to help the organization or the society at large. So those are the places where you can break confidentiality, or even where you seem now to be engaging on a different level, where both of us now have emotional feelings for each other. It's a man and a woman, we're starting to fall in love, and we say, hey, boss, this has changed on a different level, so we need to separate them, make it, find another coach to be able to take you to the next whatever. The other, the coaching process also calls for presence, deliberate, being able to be present, because then if you're absent, you are not there. You are there, but you are not there. We know at a workplace. We are there, but we are not there. We are so distracted by so many things. Coaching presence refers to the ability to be fully conscious and create spontaneous relationship with the client, employing a style that is open, flexible, and confident. This can be demonstrated by, you can know someone who's fully present, even when you are having someone coaching you online, whether even engaging with people online, which has become now the most popular way of engaging, virtual meetings. Even if the video is not on, you can know whether someone is really present in the meeting and the discussions that we are having. Being present and flexible during the coaching process, dancing in the moment, enjoying it, manifesting and really showing that you're connecting with the other person, assessing one's intuition and trusting one's inner knowing that what's going on with your gut feeling, this candidate is the right one. I have made the right decision. My gut feeling tells me that things are going on right. Being open to not knowing and taking risks, we can become vulnerable. I remember whether it was either Evelyn or Emma who said that, people not being able to take the risk and not knowing, so that they feel insecure on how to coach. The coachee takes the driver's seat, remember, and the coach understands the process, remembering the coach owns the agenda. Seeing many ways to work with the client and choosing what is most effective in the moment. Using humor effectively to create ease and synergy. It's never that serious, guys. Even at the workplace, no matter what, even if we are facing the most adverse thing, whether death, whether COVID, whether the business is closing down, there's always something to ease the tension. Confidently shifting perspective and experimenting with new possibilities for own action. That is being very creative, demonstrating confidence in working with strong emotions and being able to self-manage and not being overpowered or enmeshed with clients' emotions. But now both of us, even if I'm being empathetic, I cannot see you crying and I bewilder and cry more than you. For example, it can't happen. There are some things that are really very, very dear and they can break you, but being able to hold, because you are the one who's going to help the client get to the next level. The crying can happen, but again, you are not going to tower over them when they are crying, making sure that you are not overpowered by the emotions. Even if now it's become a heated debate, like at the workplace, the line manager cannot be the one banging the table and saying, I am the one who is in control, up to use of emotional intelligence. So constructive challenge is also the process of taking the coaching process. Constructive challenge supports the client to move forward. It can range from asking the client to identify more options or reconsidering the meaning of an experience, or refocusing the client on the objective, or holding them to account for their commitment that they have made. It helps the client develop awareness and take responsibility, but always supportively and on their client's own terms. You're trying, challenge what they are saying, challenge with the aim of getting them to see what options they have made. Are they the best? Challenge them to see that they are being the best of what they can be. And if they need to change their course of action, it would be how helpful it would be for them. That means that being reflective, being present, asking powerful questions, and being empathetic around what they're saying. Of course, we know that direct communication, I will not read that because we have already talked about how communication helps support the agenda. Direct communication, seeding our egos, saying it truthfully of what needs to be done, and creating awareness of the situation. Those are some of the ways. This refers to the ability to integrate and accurately evaluate multiple sources of information and make interpretation that help the client to gain awareness, thereby achieving the agreed upon results. And how can I show or demonstrate mastery of this competency as a coach? It's just really up to use of emotional intelligence. And there can be many, it's almost repetitive of what we have said. So, and of course, designing actions in the processes. This is the ability to create with the client opportunities for ongoing learning during coaching and in the work life situations, and for taking new actions that will effectively lead to agreed upon coaching results. Designing action. That's what am I doing, and how can I demonstrate designing action is taking you accountable, holding you accountable, asking you what you are doing about it, measuring those successes, and making sure that we are promoting those experiences and translating them to tangible results at the workplace. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions. So please tell me the process of contracting. What are some of the things that need to be taken into consideration? Emma, Evelyn? Then we have said about contracting, the do's and the don'ts, confidentiality, the coaching presence, constructive challenging, direct communication, self-awareness, designing action, and planning and setting goals, which is very important, because if we don't have a goal, then we are not going anywhere. And managing the process and accountability. Where I'm just moving very fast in these ones is because we will be seeing how they practically come into play at the place of the models for coaching. So it's very important for us to take into consideration. It's just like everything else. If I'm contracting to give you a service, what am I expected to do? Even take a meeting at, let's say a meeting that you're holding at your place of work. What do you expect the chairman to do, and what are the attendees expected to do? There will be action points. There will be discussions. There will be progress and accountability. There will be setting of the goals, which is the main agenda. Okay. So what are some of so I want a coach, I need a coach. I'm looking for a coach. I hear that. We are looking at mainstreaming coaching at our workplace. How do we get to know who is a good coach and how to consider hiring a coach? Willingness to work towards the organization, team, and individual agenda, rapport and chemistry between the client and the coach, coaching acceleration with accreditation with professional coaching experience, ability to hold the client safe, that is boundary agreement. The coach's background, you want to do the background check on them, just like in any other situation of hiring, ability to demonstrate a clear process with proven effectiveness in their coaching, their credential, areas of expertise. I had already spoken to that. The coach reputation in the coaching arena, consultancy fee that they are going to charge, membership, being a member of a professional body, clarity in articulating and underpinning their beliefs, philosophies, and approach to coaching. What's your coaching style? So all those things. So when you hire a coach, you'll be able to see whether they meet. If they meet these factors, then you know that they are good for you and they are good for your organization. Question? There are no questions. Evelyn, no question. Emma, no question. Dan, no question. Before we go to the last two topics, approaches to coaching. Emma Mechoka.
I have a question.
Yes, Emma.
You've talked about self-awareness. And when we were doing counseling, there was the issue of self-concept, which is concept.
Yeah.
how someone views himself. So it was mainly looking at the counseling. But on self-awareness, I'm seeing we are on coaching, we are looking at the coachee. So when we have been asked a question, how do you handle it? It's not very specific on whether it's coaching or counseling.
Thank you, Emma. The question is, the exam first will be very specific, whether it will be a coaching question or whether it's going to be a counseling question. So they will underpin and underline that, so there will be no ambiguity. But in the area of self-awareness, it's on both parties. You know, self-awareness from a coaching perspective, what the coach should be aware of, and also the coachee. So both of you are self-aware. So you cannot be the one party that is self-aware. Even at the workplace, we are always told, let's be self-aware of who we are. What's our personality? How do we like to be provided for leadership? How do we like to be governed? So it's a two-way traffic. But from the process of coaching, because the coach is the one who wants to help the coachee, their self-awareness so that the coachee can feed from them is it's taken on a higher bar, so that it does not undermine or water down what is being discussed. You get what I mean? So being very self-aware of who you are, and of course also when you come for coaching, I mean, it's not just, oh, you understand what coaching is, I'll not give you solutions. Okay, let's start. You're a good candidate. You have to ask, why are you here? How have you seen this? Whatever. What's your personality? What tickles you off? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts? Do you understand who you are? You remember the whole person? The whole person is actually someone who's very self-aware. So it comes through the coaching process. The coaching process is a great partnership. It also defines the framework on how the process is going to take place. Just like any other process that takes place, it has a framework, the do's and the don'ts, and how is both each party expected to show up, and what is the responsibility of everybody in that process. Are we clear, Emma?
Yes.
It's clear? Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Evelyn, any question? You okay?
No. Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you all. So there are two approaches to coaching. So there's the directive coaching and there's the non-directive coaching. And if you remember, the definition of coaching is that the coach does not give solutions. But sometime at the workplace, we find the need of us to use directive coaching, and it has a place for us to be able to take the organization to the next level and support teams as well. So don't become confused when you hear, but directive coaching is very like, I'm giving you direction and I'm giving you I'm guiding you, I'm holding your hand, I'm giving you solutions. It still has a big place to play in the workplace, and it also has success that can help the organization move forward, including moving forward is also including the things that we are doing. So approaches to coaching, it refers to the way a coach delivers their service and is a reflection of the principles, models, and tools that a coach uses. We define this as intentionally utilizing and the transferable elements of coaching in other conversations where they might be appropriate and useful. You remember now? Appropriate and useful. There are two main forms of coaching at the workplace: directive and non-directive, just as we have seen in that whatever. So in directive coaching, this is what it means. In directive coaching, the coach sets the agenda, Goals of the individual or group, suggests strategies to achieving those goals, identifies resources, monitors the performance of the group or individual, and gives them evaluative feedback. So the coach or the supervisor is in charge of this entire process. The coach is the expert and tells the individual or group what to do. On the other side, what we say about directive coaching, it is instructional. You can see I'm giving you instructions on what to do. It's another form of teaching or training. The coach requires expert knowledge of performance in any given context. So the coach is the expert. So directive coaching, what we have said and just pulling out from it, sets the goals for the individual group, suggests strategies to achieve those goals, identifies the resources and sets to achieve the set goal, monitors the performance, and gives evaluative. It is very instructional. The coach is the expert, just like what you have said. Thus, the coach requires expert knowledge to perform a given context. In non-directive coaching, on the other hand, in non-directive coaching, the coach, the individual or group is the expert and they set the agenda. The coach helps them to think through that agenda and then apply their own expertise to achieve the outcomes they want. Non-directive coaching is facilitating, while directive coaching is instructional. That's what you need to remember, so that you actually just now separate those two. If a question comes, you will be able to know what are the features of non-directive coaching. What are the features of directive coaching? So in non-directive coaching, the individual, the group is the expert, they set their own agenda. The coach helps them to think through that agenda and they apply their own expertise to achieve the outcomes that they want. Non-directive coaching is facilitative. It is based on reflective learning and structural problem solving. Just like the full definition of coaching, where we know that the coach only provides the platform and asks the questions for the person or the team to think through and come up with their own solutions. Non-directive coaching is facilitative. We also go on to say that it is based on reflective learning and structural problem solving. The coach requires knowledge only of how to help the people, so they are bringing in their skill and their competencies of what we have talked about. And one of them is to be able to ask the correct questions, to be able to use empathy, to be able to build trust and rapport building, and to be able to give feedback for people now to be able to solve the problems for themselves. Are we clear? So that is so. So what is the procedure of non-directive coaching? We see that the client explains the objective to the coach. They come and give them the agenda. The coach helps the client to reframe the objective as a practical problem. With the help of the coach, the client then develops an action plan to achieve the objective. This plan becomes, in effect, a self-directive learning project to the client. Whatever problem it is, then that you anchor it and you'll be the one in charge of it. The client then puts this plan into action and reports back to the coach or the supervisor on what is happening. You remember the measures of milestone and success that we had talked about in the coaching process? The coach helps the client review the outcomes of their actions and make any appropriate adjustments of their action plan and their objective. Because sometimes we need to be able to do what? We need to be able to go back to the drawing board to show what is happening and how we can make it better. Is that okay? Okay. So what are the reasons for preference of non-directive coaching? And they could also be preferences for directive coaching. So please bear in mind that that can also come in the question, and it is just the opposite of the non-directive coaching. Non-directive coaching aims to achieve people, to help people develop the confidence and strategies they need to take charge of their own learning and development. By refraining from telling the client what to do, the coach gives the client time to think through for themselves, show faith in the client's ability to arrive at satisfactory solutions to their own, and helps the client to take ownership and responsibility of their own learning. So it's the preference. If the preference, what would be the preference of directive coaching? So in short, it would be like, we are trying to solve a problem very quickly, so I am going to show you how it is done. We have a problem in the organization. We need to solve it as quickly as possible. We need to take a product to the market. I need to show people how to do it. There is an emergency in the organization. Let me show you how to handle it. There could be also the issue of, I want to accelerate your learning because there are gaps, and those gaps needs to be filled very quickly in the organization. So I'm going to use non-directive coaching. So places where there is need for quick implementation of solution of problems or challenges that are being faced in the organization. When there is a missing competencies and skills in the organization, it's very good for reasons of preference of using directive coaching. I hope we are together in that. So we all go on and say skills, attitudes, and behaviors developed by non-directive coaching. So because people become very self-aware and people become very sustaining, and they're able to sustain their goals and sustain what they have come up with. Non-directive coaching is the form of learning to learn. It helps people develop the ability to identify their own learning needs. You remember where we want to be? An agile organization, a high performance culture, bring a high performance culture in organization. This helps a lot. Set realistic learning goals. Identify learning resources, human and material, plan and apply appropriate learning strategies, monitor and evaluate learning outcomes, and finally, understand and develop the attitudes, personal behaviors, and social supports that underpin sustainable, resilient learning, and while being purposeful, proactive, realistically optimistic, creative, collaborative, attentive, curious, and reflective. Building networks for support, taking a problem-solving approach, accepting personal responsibilities for one's learning and development. That's what we want to achieve. When you look at all this to help develop people, then what happens is that people have a good attitude and good behaviors, and they're able to develop and they're able to do things on their own because now they understand who they are. They're able to set their own agenda and run with that agenda. Roles of the client in a non-directive coaching. What is the role of the coachee? We have also said that, I will not repeat again. They set the goals, the problem framing, problem solving, action planning, experimenting. So sometimes they fail, they come back, they experiment again. You know, you're giving them room, and it's very reflective in terms of what needs to be done. And when you look at one of the question papers, it actually shows what are the features of non-directive coaching. These are the ones. And it could also be the roles. So don't get confused around what the client, the examiner is looking for. As long as you understand principles of coaching, workplace coaching, definition of coaching, what non-directive coaching stands for, the definition of directive and non-directive coaching, you are home and dry. So that's and then the principles of non-directive coaching, it's the same in terms of just anchoring around really what are supposed to be done, how it works, the strengths that it brings into the organization, and also how it plays a critical role in self-reflective learning and being evaluative of oneself. In fact, it is so good because when you use non-directive coaching, it becomes very easy for people to come and do annual performance appraisals, or if you have performance contracting, there'll be no wishy-washy, who did this, who did that, because I'm the one in control of my own agenda, and my supervisor is helping me achieve that agenda. Any question? I'm also cognizant that people start getting tired and whatever. So let's look at the coaching models, the last topic of the day. Anyone who has interacted with any coaching model? Evelyn, Dan, Emma? Coaching models? So what is a model? Coaching models are typically comprised of steps within a coaching roadmap or framework in an easy to remember acronym. Since coaching conversations can sometimes be difficult conversations, coaching models are intended to provide some consistency in the flow of the conversation and a plan to ensure that all topics are covered. So let me just give a disclaimer here. Everything that we have talked about or discussed in this webinar culminates around looking at your coaching model and what an individual, the coaching models that are tried and tested, and there are many. And for you to know who's a good coach, you can say, Catherine, what's your coaching model? You can, if someone says, I'm a certified coach, you can say, what are some of the coaching models that you know? Which is a coaching model that you use often? Why do you use it? You know, then you know that you're on the right track of understanding whether they are a real coach. And also it helps if you're trying to bring a coach on board. The other thing is that coaching conversations, if you use a model, it just gives you a bit of more clarity. It doesn't mean that, well, you know, I've finished now, I've set goals, let's move after 10 minutes, let's move to the other step of these conversations. Coaching conversations are natural conversations. And why do I say that? It's like going to your favorite coffee house with your best friend and having conversations. That's how we should be. Let's take it back even closer to the workplace. We have conversations if we are genuinely interested in each other, the environment is conducive, and we do not have any hindrances around ourselves. That I'm very free to talk with my supervisor. I respect authority and the responsibilities bestowed on them, but I can come and they challenge me. They ask me to be who I am, to be my best. Those, you can imagine, those gives you whatever. But if you have a very strained relationship with someone, you will not be able to have good conversations. They're always strained. There's always tension. You don't achieve the results. So that is why sometimes these coaching models help us achieve that. But again, as I said, coaching requires a very trusting, enjoyable, ideal environment for us to take place. That means that all parties understand what coaching is, and also the environment that we have created is conducive. So the benefits of using a coaching, whether you are an experienced coach, manager, or a new in coaching, leveraging on a coaching model will help you to ensure that you have a solid plan for your coaching conversation. So you know the coaching process. Now you're bringing it closer home. The goal has been put on the table. We need to start discussing this goal that someone wants. We all know that planning is key to having a productive coaching conversation and walking away from the conversation with an employee's commitment to improve. Remember non-directive coaching. what we said is that they set their own agenda and they commit to their improvement. In addition, having an easy to remember flow to a conversation will give you a level of comfort no matter which direction the conversation takes, as you always know what the next step is. This means it essentially helps you to stay focused and better manage the coaching interaction. And what do I say by that? You remember where we said some conversations are so difficult. You must be able as a coach to understand what is happening in this room right now. My coachee has gone on another tangent that I need to help them come back and stay focused. Some can be very difficult conversations. Some can be very exciting conversations. You know, like, for example, you seem very happy with it. You seem excited. All of a sudden, you seem very withdrawn and you seem frustrated in this process. You must be willing to be looking at those tell signs that are not rather obvious. That's why being very alive and being very present in those conversations are very, very important, like what we have seen and what we have seen. So the very first one, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, is the GROW model, which was developed by John Whitmore. Which the GROW, like what we have said, we use acronyms, and the acronym for GROW, G stands for goal, R stands for reality, O stands for options, and W stands for wrapper. So let's look at each one of them. And that's what we have said around, I have a goal. How am I going to be able to achieve this goal once you come to having those conversations using the principles that we have actually talked about? So under the GROW coaching model consists of 5 steps. The first of the 4 steps, the GROW, the reality, the options, or sometimes we call them obstacles, because you have options, but there could be some obstacles that come along your way. And what is the way forward? What action points are we putting in place? How far have we made progress? What is the next thing we are committed to? Or have we finished this whole exercise and wrap it up, sign it off, and say it has been successful? Coaching must be successful. If it's not successful, you're already starting to feel it from the very beginning. You can't wait until you have your 6 sessions with a client and say, we did not achieve what was intended to be. On the 2nd or 3rd coaching meetup, you must be able to see the milestones that you are making and some of the successes that are coming your way. We are not going to wait until it's at the end and say it's been a flop. You can't be paid money and then it flops. So there is no room for you not to be successful in coaching. We are not saying that, and if you're not going to be successful, you're already identifying it and saying, unfortunately, it's not working. Let's look for other interventions. Remember that I said coaching is not the only intervention or leadership style that you are going to use for you to be successful in achieving your objectives as an individual and the objectives of the organization. So to put it metaphorically, the GROW coaching model is what you need, you're planning a journey to go to Mombasa. You're planning a journey to go to your shags. You're planning a journey every day to go to the office. You start with a map. Where are you going? That is the goal. And where are you coming from? That is the reality. Then chart the different routes and modes of transportation. Those are the options, At last, it helps you pick the option that best suits you, considering the obstacles on the way. And then you chart out a process way forward and make sure that your motivation for the trip is maximized. You understand? So a very simple goal. Even let's say a goal of, I'm looking at 5 years from now, the HR director will be retiring, and I would like to be the HR director. So that is your goal. For example, my goal is to be the HR director. So where am I coming from right now? What's the reality? The reality for me is that my organization will expect me to be a CHRP accredited, will need me to have 5 years of work experience, will need me to have worked on this kind of projects. And looking at the reality, do I have all that? Maybe some I have, maybe some I don't. And you're coming to a coach, you know, we are discussing the reality. Why do you want to be the HR director? It will fulfill me as a person. I'll earn more money. I'll be well respected within the HR circles. I love the business that my organization does. You know, so what's the reality? There could be other people who will be competing for the same position. So those are the whatever. So what are we going to do? What are some of the options that you can take to make sure that you realize your goal? Options. I have to make sure that I finish. What are the options and the obstacles that can come my way to be able to do that? Options. For me to be able to realize that. What are some of the obstacles? Obstacles is that there could be 3 or more people in that. Options is to make sure that I get into the talent pool next year. How am I going to get into the talent pool? My performance must be above board for me to do that on 2 consecutive times. I've done one, and I believe this year, because of the kind of periodic feedback I am getting, my results are above board. You remember where we said you are giving results that everybody just thinks, whoa. And then chart way forward. You know, now start taking the baby steps. I'm going to do CHRP. I'm in the talent pool. I'm getting into those options. And so that's the grow model. So again, I will not have already explained what it is. The first step of the grow model is to define the goals. They could be long-term goals. They could be short-term, long-term goals, short-term goals. And also at the same time, they could be goals which are many, and you as a coach help identify with the client what is the real goal that they want to discuss or they want to achieve. Reality, self-aware of the actual situation. I have already said that. Simulating self-awareness, using all the principles that you're going to be using to be able to bring the reality to fore. And one of the key principles that a coach needs to use during the reality discussion is stage or process is the deep questioning. The options, you know, generating the ideas that contribute to finding the solution, obstacles, the barriers and the hindrances that would come along your way. And finally, the other one is the choice that you're going to make and create an action plan in giving feedback. So when you look at goal settings, the principles or some of the competencies that are required to be used, you would say, is really rapport building and trust building at that stage. You'd also be contracting at this stage and using all the contracting process that we have mentioned. You'd also be actively listening to make sure that you understand and articulate that goal. In the reality stage, you would be using deep questioning. You'd be making sure that you up to self-awareness, because this is a stage that can really elicit a lot of emotions. You'd also be using non-judgmental, whatever. All of them are important, but some are. And I'm saying that, oh, now we finished goal setting. Let's go to the reality. Tell me how it looks. You know, you are going through, you are rephrasing, you are reconfirming, like what we have said. Options, you're looking, they might come up with really far-fetched and ridiculous and stupid options to your thought. But remember, being very non-judgmental in this stage is very important. Listening, bringing them back, asking powerful questions. In the way forward, you will be giving them feedback. You will be encouraging them to move forward to the next stage. And the last two, why use the grow GROW process, why would you use the GROW coaching model? It is tried and tested approach for structured coaching sessions. It's very used, and it's used all the time in the office. When you think about a manager or even a department meeting, you use a lot of this. It offers a framework that with general questions that elicit the 4 steps. It leads to clearly defined end results through the 4 phases or the 5 phases. And I say 5 phases sometimes because we use the obstacles as well. The coachee is personally active in identifying the problem. So it's the coachee who is really taking control of that. It advocates for learning experience through reflective insights, making choices and pursuing them. The success of the coaching trajectory with the GROW coaching model depends on the time and energy invested with the process by the client. So it's you. The client is the one who's going to make it successful. Because the coach is already coming and saying, I will help you. I'm partnering with you. Allow me to make it a success. The beauty about working with the GROW coaching model is that you don't need to be an expert in your client-specific situation to be able to coach them. Remember, you can coach anyone, and you don't have to be an expert, but it's always good to have some information about that industry, about that problem, so that you're a better partner to the process. So the other one is the Oscar coaching model. And the last one, before we close, or we open the session to questions and answers, the Oscar coaching model, the outcomes, the desire. So outcomes stand for desired goals or achievements. This is a coaching model. The situation, the clarity of where the coachee is now currently. The C, the choices of the consequences, options available at their consequences. The A, actions, clarification of the next steps, and review, evaluating the progress. Just like the GROW, it takes the same process, but it's articulated. So the Oscar, we said that the Oscar model builds on the GROW model and is particularly suitable for managing performance within the organizations, really managing performance. Outcome, your destination. What would you like to achieve out of today's session? What are your long-term outcomes? What would success look like for you? So that would be a typical coaching session in terms of the coach asking the client the questions. This is where you help the team member clarify the outcomes from the sessions and long-term goals around the issue that they have raised, the situation, your starting point. This is where you get clarity around where the team member is right now, choices and consequences. This is where you help the team member generate as many alternative choices as possible and raise awareness about the consequences of each possible choice. What would be some of the pros and the cons when you take some of those choices that you are taking? Then the actions, this is where you help the team member clarify their next steps forward and take responsibility of their own action plans. Remember that people have to take responsibility of their own actions because they're the ones who are coming up with them. And finally, the review. These steps create an ongoing process of review and evaluation. This is where you help the team members to continuously check that they are on course. They also help you to be fully informed about what your team member is doing and why they are doing it. So keeping in, you are reviewing, monitoring and evaluation, like what we like to say. And so those are they're just, I repeated it there, sorry. So the final one is the fuel coaching model. This is the very last slide. So the fuel coaching model is very good for pointing out behavior, that hard conversation of we never want to have. It's very easy to pick conversations and goals around tangible goals. I want to be a HR director. That's my goal. I want to understand how I can better perform in this role. Very, very, very articulate. But in terms of a behavior that has been picked up by your line manager, you are a very impatient person, for example. The first thing is you become defensive, but your line manager wants to help you, and they help you see the circumstances and where you have been impatient. And you can be alive to them and say, oh, I didn't even know that is how it appears from me. And now you accept it. And then now they take it, they let you deal with it, and you run the process and say, how about, would you like me to help you in understanding how patient would look like for you? Are you welcome to that process? And then you use the fuel. It's very, very easy. Frame the conversation. So you frame the conversation around the behavior and how it affects the rest of the team, how it affects you and your success as an individual, how you can help to become better in terms of whatever. And also this behavior, how it actually does not resonate with our values and our culture. So framing the conversation, setting the context and focus for the conversation. So behavior, you have no tenacity. Another behavior, you don't have integrity, and they have told you you like to procrastinate. That's a behavior, so that you would like to change because it does not go well with you, with your personality. It's going to impact the group. It also does not go well with our values. So you start those conversations around that. Then understand the current state, help the coachee gain awareness about themselves and about the present state. Explore the desired state. Help the coachee to think through and identify the target and then generate multiple paths to achieving the end state. And we're saying that behaviors, because you have to get an accountability body, and your coach will be that person. And also to solicit for feedback from other people. Lay out a success plan. Help the coachee create a detailed action plan and follow through that will lead to the goal attainment and the goal anchoring in terms of my behavior and whatever. So the fuel model really works very well around behavior, issues around behavior, not that it cannot work with issues around tangible goals. And so those are the three coaching models that I wanted to bring to attention that are very alive to the paper that we will be doing tomorrow. So that marks the end of our webinar. And how do I then inculcate a culture of coaching in our organization? You have to build a business case for coaching, establish the organizational expectations or company of the firm, equip through training, coaching skills, put them in practice, provide opportunities for sharing success and challenges, provide for continuous external trainings, develop for criteria for checking return on investment, and always remember that it is important to reward success. That's the end. It's been a long morning, a long day, and a long afternoon. I will open this session to questions and answers, clarity, whether it was useful for us to also to be able to get feedback.
Yes, I think it was useful for me. Mm-hmm. I think my objective was met. We agreed that everybody had their own objectives. Mm. So I think mine was to get a deeper understanding of the coaching concept. And I think I can proudly say that not only for the exam tomorrow, but even in practice.
Fantastic.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evelyn. Very happy to hear that even just putting in practice as an individual, not just for the exam tomorrow. Yeah. Anybody else? Evelyn? Can see a comment from Beth. Beth is on, she's just sent a message. Very informative. Thank you, Beth. Any question? Any clarification about tomorrow? I've given a tip or two. Praying for your success as well.